It is a bleak day for the Albanese Labor government on a number of fronts. The Prime Minister and Labor are facing bad news and challenges at home and abroad. And in a strange twist of fate, they all have a common thread. And that thread is Kevin Rudd, currently Australia's ambassador to the US. Let's start with one gift that Rudd left the nation when he was Prime Minister. I think it was his only achievement, actually, but it's an important one. When Rudd delivered that famous apology to stolen generations in 2008, he did something very wise. He decreed that every year the Parliament would receive a report on closing the gap. This is like an annual audit of whether the health standards, education and employment outcomes, housing access and even life expectancy for Indigenous Australians are all getting closer to those of non-Indigenous Australians. This year's Closing the Gap report was delivered today, and only 5 of the 19 targets are on track. In other words, in 14 of the 19 target areas, this nation is failing on its promise. Having mangled the Indigenous voice, the Albanese government is also failing on the practical measures.
It is about ensuring that all Australians get the same chance in life. It is about working towards a reality in which all Australians have power over their own destiny. It's about living the reality of the fair go that we proclaim as an important part of the Australian sense of ourselves.
In one of the most important passages of his speech, Prime Minister Rudd said, "Australians are a passionate lot. We're also a very practical lot. For us, symbolism is important, but unless the great symbolism of reconciliation is accompanied by an even greater substance, it is little more than a clanging gong."
Pretty sobering stuff, hey? The other huge policy challenge thrown at the Albanese Labor government today was the announcement by US President Donald Trump that all steel and aluminium imports to the US will be hit by a 25% tariff. This could be a heavy blow to Australian exporters. It's a policy Trump enacted the first time he was president, when Australia managed to negotiate an exemption from those tariffs. But that was under a coalition government, and our ambassador then was Joe Hockey, who was tight enough with Trump to play golf with him. This time we have Albanese and his ambassador Kevin Rudd, and both are on the record mocking and abusing Trump. Rudd got under Trump's nose apparently last month and shook his hand or something, but he hasn't had a proper meeting with him, while the Prime Minister hasn't even spoken to the President since Trump's re-election last year. So, at a precarious and crucial time for our US relations, Albanese looks to be on the outer with the US President, and he's relying on his mate Rudd as the ambassador in Washington, even though this is all Trump has ever said about Rudd.
I heard he was a little bit nasty. I hear he's not the brightest bulb, but I don't know much about him. But if he's at all hostile, he will not be there long.
Makes you wonder how long Australia can afford to keep Kevin Rudd in that job, doesn't it? After copping heat in Parliament today, Albanese declared that he's now got a phone call scheduled with Trump.
I have a discussion with President Trump scheduled, and I will certainly keep the House and the Australian people informed after that discussion.
Wouldn't you like to be a fly on the wall for that one? And that brings me to the third bit of bad news for Labor today, and in a political sense, this is the toughest news for the Prime Minister. Labor is on the nose big time with mainstream voters, the people in the outer suburbs or mortgage belt areas where elections are won and lost. And Labor is on the nose in particular in Victoria, where the next federal election could be won or lost. This was shown up in 2 Victorian state by-elections on the weekend, where the Liberals are within striking distance in the normally safe Labor seat of Werribee, and in the inner city seat of Prahran, where the Liberals have taken a seat from the Greens. This trend has also been shown up in polling by the Redbridge Group that shows Labor's support has dropped to just 27% in outer suburban areas. Now, that polling is disastrous. Remember, Labor got elected with a record low primary vote last time, and now they're going backwards in crucial areas. The way the polls and the issues are trending, Anthony Albanese could be the first Prime Minister of the post-war era to lose government after just one term. And you might be wondering, where is the Kevin Rudd link in this problem? Well, the point is that Albanese is going so badly as leader. He's weak, he's off message, he's cranky, and he's tanking in the polls. And it's all been unravelling over many, many months, as we've detailed on this program. And ordinarily, in these circumstances, Labor would have knifed him. They would have changed leaders late last year, probably. But remember, Rudd changed the rules. As part of his deal when he returned for his second stint as Prime Minister, Rudd insisted on new leadership rules. It's now almost impossible to change leader unless the leader agrees to go and the caucus unites behind a replacement unchallenged. If there's a contest, then the whole party membership gets a vote, which would take weeks and favour the socialist left anyway. So now, as the Labor Party has gone backwards month after month under Albo's listless leadership, they've known they're stuck with Albanese, and they've got Kevin Rudd to thank for that.